Alrighty, so here we are back with another episode of our series. We are currently on the series Cedar Point Conspiracy Theories. The last two have been a great success. A lot of people like it, so we're obviously going to continue it. And in today's episode, as you already know, we're going to discuss Cedar Point B&M Strata. So the Strata coaster is something that has been talked about actually quite some bit, especially in recent years with this whole rumor going around that Magnum's going to be removed, la-di-da. You already know my thoughts on the Magnum removal from my previous conspiracy theory video. I just don't see it happening, but we're definitely going to touch on the B&M Strata. For those of you that are new to this series, I discuss both sides. So I discuss why it could happen, why it won't happen, and then I give my personal thoughts on the matter. These are not my reflection of what I think is going to happen at the park. So whenever you see a title like B&M Strata or Magnum Removal, it is not my thoughts. It's just the topic of discussion for the series. I do want to start off this video, though, with I guess asking you guys if you could share this video and get this series out there, more people watching. We are about to hit our 1 millionth view today. So that's a big day, big milestone for us. We are live streaming today at 8 p.m. to celebrate. So if you guys could help us out, share this video, get the message out there, get more people subscribe to the channel, that would be awesome. The channel is growing rapidly thanks to you guys. I see our shares, how many people are sharing our videos, and I couldn't be more thrilled. So thank you so much. So I do want to start off the video with reasons why the Strata coaster is coming to Cedar Point. This was really hard for me. So again, the concept of a B&M Strata is it will have a lift hill. This was really hard for me to come up with because I'm actually, I won't get into what I personally think just yet, but some feel it's old and outdated. And when I say that, we're referring to Magnum. So a lot of people refer to Magnum, actually not a lot of people, some people refer to Magnum as old and outdated. I'm going to change that word to some because I'm a firm believer that Magnum is actually super underrated. And I love Magnum. So some people feel it is old and outdated and it's time to be replaced. A lot of people feel Magnum is on valuable land, blocking off newly usable land in the back of the peninsula. This is somewhat true. So with a lot of the back area that we see, and we're going to touch on that in a little bit later on in the video, is there's a newly bulldozed plot of land where the hotel used to sit right in the back end of the peninsula. Magnum kind of blocks off this route that goes back there that could be used for expansion purposes, for the water park, or maybe for a bigger coaster, or maybe they want to put a GCI all the way back there. Who knows what's the plan for Cedar Point or Cedar Fair with that land. But there's definitely this area that Magnum blocks off. It kind of like drives like a line down the center or a little bit down the center of the water park and then into this newly bulldozed plot of land. And no one really knows what they're going to do with that plot of land yet. So it'll be really interesting to see what's to come. Strata coasters with a chain lift would be the first of its kind, and it would take us back to the days that Cedar Fair used to be the trailblazer for these first of a kinds coasters that push the limits and all that. I would love to go back to those days where, Cedar Point announces that coaster and it's going to be the first of a kind or the world record breaker. We're still kind of in those days, but it's definitely simmered down a little bit. So they don't go for, pushing the limits to an extreme. Steel Vengeance was definitely, going for the extreme. Some could argue Valraven was as well, and Gatekeeper was as well. But I'm talking about the days, where Millennium Force and Magnum, first out of this world attractions. So definitely want to go back to those roots, and a B&M Strata coaster with a lift hill would be going back to those roots in a way. So let's say the rumors of a Kings Island 2020 Giga are true. Cedar Point would need another new massive steel roller coaster to compete with that in the same state. So, I mean, to be honest, that was a very fair argument for me. When I heard that argument, I was like, that's pretty fair. I too would think the same thing if Kings Island does get a Giga coaster. I do think Cedar Point will need that new massive steel coaster again. So this is that argument that kind of started to get my brain ticking a little bit. So not trying to foreshadow a little bit to the end of the video, but that was definitely an argument that got me thinking. And again, it could reroute a lot of passage for the water park and all that. So it was hard to come up with arguments in favor of the B&M Strata coaster coming to Cedar Point. I'm going to get into the reasons why not now. Again, this was a lot easier, not to truly foreshadow, but again, from my personal opinion and just from current evidence, Magnum is not being removed. It's not its time to go. It's a very popular attraction, and it's very underrated and amazing hyper coaster in my opinion. I just don't see it. It's not its time yet. A Strata coaster would require way too much land, and without Magnum's removal, there isn't many locations that a Strata lift hill coaster could fit. There are absolutely no signs of Magnum's removal at this current time, and that would mean there's no reason to believe we're looking at a Strata lift hill coaster coming anytime soon to Cedar Point. With the coasters we're also seeing, and this was kind of my argument, with the coasters we're currently seeing being built at Cedar Fair and Cedar Point and other parks and all that, going out on a limb and building this massive B&M Strata lift hill coaster, it just doesn't seem like the right time. We're not seeing any evidence of Cedar Fair back in their roots building these massive steel coasters that blow people out of the water. And just from a marketing standpoint, it wouldn't make sense to jump right onto that out of nowhere. You want to save these massive needed expansions and ability to build these massive coasters for a time of need. And right now, it's not quite the right time. I do want to stress as well that there's two other coaster models I can see being built first, such as a GCI wooden coaster or a flying coaster before we see a Strata with a lift hill. There's just so much possibilities with those two coaster models before we even need to consider a Strata lift hill coaster. So, in my opinions, this is really a tricky one, to be honest. It's very difficult to predict at the current time, as I don't see it in the coming years. But as soon as we see any signs of Magnum being removed, I'm probably going to be one of the first people to jump on the B&M Strata lift hill bandwagon. For a couple of reasons, I just see Cedar Point down the road needing these massive investments to compete with parks close to them or even at a distance. It almost seems like the whole coaster wars has started again. It's a very interesting topic of discussion because we see parks like Six Flags Magic Mountain, Six Flags Great Adventure, having that possibility of restarting those coaster wars. We're hearing Six Flags Great Adventure might get a coaster in 2020. Six Flags Magic Mountain is back in the game with building these really awesome, massive coasters. And Cedar Point is going to have to follow suit, especially since Cedar Fair seems to be cannibalizing Cedar Point's records and building record coasters of the same models at their parks around the world. I say around the world, I mean in North America, like Canada's Wonderland, Carowinds, Kings Island, etc. They seem to be taking their own records. But as soon as we see Magnum being removed or any signs of that, I will definitely be the first one on that bandwagon. They're not going to replace Magnum with anything else but an exceptionally large world record steel coaster, in my opinion, or something that would bring people in. Again, I do personally think there are better options out there currently, like a GCI wooden coaster or a flying coaster from B&M. There's world records to be taken there before they start going into that world record steel coaster, sit-down steel coaster category again. I just feel like a B&M Flyer is one of their best options to go down. There's a lot of world records they can take there. Even a GCI Woody, lots of records to be taken there before they go down the route of the Strata with a lift hill. I would like to see Cedar Fair going after records again, as I stated earlier, in an aggressive manner and pushing the limits, especially at Cedar Point. I miss this whole era where they did that. Anyways, what do you guys think about the Strata coaster coming to Cedar Point, and what year do you think you could see a Strata coaster coming to Cedar Point? I want to hear from you down below, so comment down below what you think. Is this a fail or is it a win? Definitely comment down below. Hopefully you guys like this video. Give it a like, subscribe if you haven't, and share for others to enjoy. Thanks for watching, guys, and as usual, have a good one. Bye.